What is up guys, Fi here, and today we're going to be looking at what I think is the best champion in each role to carry solo queue with. There are a ton of other good champions as well, but these are the ones right now who are just really good at climbing elo. Also, I am sorry for disappearing for a few weeks. I've had some family stuff, but I'm now back to my usual schedule. Why don't we just work our way down the map? So first off, we've got Hecarim in the top lane. Now Hecarim is one of these champions that is just really annoying to play against. He does a ton of damage, he gets really tanky, his TP ganks are ridiculously good, he has multiple gap closers, and a lot of his damage is AoE as well. So let's just think about the top lane, right? How do you really win from top lane? Well, you win your lane and then you take that advantage and gank other lanes or go into team fights. Well, Hecarim is really strong in lane anyway with his low mana cost Q. He can just spam that all day and trade really well, especially when he gets his Sheen, but also you take Ignite and TP as your summoners. So having Ignite over your opponent means that you should always win 1v1, and you should pretty much always win 2v2 as well if the enemy jungler comes. So that is the first part, right? He can win his lane, but how about how he takes that advantage into the rest of the map? He actually probably does this part better than any other top laner. You buy home guards early anyway, you TP to a ward, you E at someone for even more speed, and it's impossible to escape and bloody deadly as well with that damage. This is why he's so good. He can win his lane pretty hard and then he can affect the rest of the map really easily too. These are runes, masteries, and build paths for Hecarim. There are different ways and things you can run on him, but this is a really good starting point to try, and then you can experiment from there. So moving into the jungle, we probably have one of the champions that I hate playing against the most, and that's Sejuani. Now remember before when Rengar was really popular, and he just one-shot you if you're playing AD? Well, Sejuani doesn't one-shot you, so that's one thing, right? She'll just constantly punch you instead while you run away and you tickle her. She's really tanky with only a few items, but the problem is really how much damage she does. Her whole kit has a really high base damage, which means that she doesn't need to build damage to do damage. This creates a situation where mid-game she'll have Cinderholt, maybe a Randuin's, and suddenly you can't kill her, but she can definitely kill you. So in general, she has okay ganks pre-6, great ganks after level 6, good jungle clear, a gap closer, a huge slow, hard crowd control with her ultimate, a lot of damage, and is very tanky. If you do play her, don't be afraid to gank pre-6 because her gap closer is pretty good, and if you hit the enemy then your slow can keep them in place long enough for your laners to follow up. There isn't really too much I need to say about her honestly because she's the most popular pick in this video. We've all seen her in our games and how strong she can be, but my god, I honestly just ban her right now because I don't want to deal with that pick. Now moving on to mid, and there are a lot of good mid laners right now, but I think Katarina is the best for solo queue. She does a ton of damage with only a few items. She has her resets, her jump, good roaming and ganking, an okay lane phase, and only gets better as the game goes on. Now I was actually really tempted to put LeBlanc here, but I think Katarina is just like an easier version of her. Okay, so LeBlanc isn't actually hard to play in lane, but in team fights it's actually a lot harder to have an impact than people think. Is it better to double distortion for AoE, double chain to peel, or maybe double Q to nuke someone? Combine that with how quickly you die if you get hit with any damage, and you aren't exactly as face roll as Katarina is. Kat just picks the right time to dive in, she presses R and then she kills everyone. The amount of times I have beaten a Katarina in lane but still lost the game is crazy. Like, I'll force her out of lane, I'll have double her CS or something, but she'll just run bot lane instead, kill them both, then come back to lane with an Abyssal Scepter and kill me. This is the point I'm trying to make. Katarina doesn't need to win lane to be strong. She is good at roaming and ganking because of her gap closer and her resets, so she gets a few kills, she gets a few items, and suddenly she can carry the game. What I just said assumes that she loses her lane. If you go even or win, then you just get to those items quicker and you carry anyway. It's basically a win-win situation. So these are a few examples of runes, masteries, and items for Kat. The new item is actually pretty cool with her ultimate, but I'm still testing it out, so this is what I normally get. Now rounding out this video is the bot lane, and let's start with the AD carry first in Jinx. Now this is a weird one because, well, Graves is probably still the best all-round AD carry, but Jinx is just a terror in solo queue. Now the meta is shifting to very tanky champions, and that's what Jinx excels at killing. Graves is still really good and is definitely stronger early, but I think Jinx overall is just better now. Jinx is probably the best late game AD carry at the moment. She does insane damage, but she also can kite the tanky junglers and has her rockets and range to keep her safe. Her attack speed is awesome, and when no one is focusing you then it's definitely a lot more damage, but your rockets just make you so safe in fights. So next time you're watching the LCS and they have a Jinx, right, just watch them in team fights. They hardly ever stop using their rockets, and that's because the range is just amazing. So it lets you put out AoE damage and it keeps you so safe at the same time, basically an AD carry's wet dream. Her ultimate and her resets are also a big part of why she's so good. If she gets one kill in a team fight, then she can escape, she could kite, or she can chase so much better, which will normally lead to another kill, and it's just that great snowball effect if you're ahead. Now I've said already that she's the best late game AD carry, but she is still good early and mid game, which is why she's perfect for solo queue. To put it really simply, if you get ahead you can carry really easily with your insane damage and range, but if you get behind then chances are the game will last long enough for you to get a few items and turn the game around. Alright, so finally moving on to support, and you know me, I'm always partial to a good hooker, so we're gonna go with Blitzcrank. Honestly, at High Diamond, Janna is definitely the best support, but she relies on your team a lot more. She is more of a keep your team alive while they kill everyone kind of support. Well, if you don't want to rely on your team, and at low elo you probably don't, then Blitz is definitely the robot for you. Blitz is a very risk-free aggressive support. You try to hook, if it lands you create an advantageous trade, if not then you run away and you just try again later. Blitz can get your AD carry fed, he can set up ganks, he can roam to other lanes and get them fed too. Blitz is just one of the best playmaking supports, and if you can land your hooks then you're probably the highest impact support as well. You'll start fights all the time by catching people, you'll snowball yours and other lanes, you'll close out games by hooking people and taking objectives for free. The only problem is that he's a bit of a risky pick. If you get behind then you're insanely useless, but if you're good enough and you hit enough hooks early then you shouldn't ever fall that far behind, and well, if all else does fail then you just roam mid and feed your mid laner instead. Well, that wraps up the best champions for each role purely on winning solo queue games. Remember to like, subscribe and leave any other champions you're having success with in the comments below. That's all for now though, so I'll catch you next time.